Good evening, everyone. Tonight's talk is on the Brahma Viharas for sublime mind states, but we'll meditate first for 20 minutes. So find your relaxed meditative posture and gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And holding your back straight but not stiff. Your ears aligned with your shoulders, nose aligned with your navel. And holding yourself very loosely, very gently, very lovingly. Allow yourselves to settle into this room, settle onto your seats, settle into your bodies, and settle into your minds. And take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. Just get a feel for what that's like, to be mindful of your breath in your body. And while remaining mindful of your breath in your body, notice that thoughts are flowing. We're conscious beings, thoughts should be flowing. The purpose of meditation is to not be distracted by your own thoughts. So when you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. Relaxing your thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. And we'll meditate for 20 minutes with callbacks every 5 minutes. relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. Relaxing thoughts of your breathing. If a persistent thought or feeling arises, stay with it for a moment or two. Recognize it as impermanent and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 5 more minutes. take a moment to notice the quality of your mind. Be at peace with your mind. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. That was an interesting meditation for me. It was very peaceful. But over the weekend, Maura made me drink this cold brewed coffee. Whew, man, it was good. So I decided to make some for myself today. Actually, I started it yesterday. Wow. Well, I haven't done illegal drugs in over 35 years, but this could replace methamphetamine. Phew. One little glass. Thanks, Maura.
It wasn't my fault. I wasn't going to have one. It was really tasty, but the same thing happened to me last week. I was like, whoa.
And it was just, I mean, it was like that much with a little almond. Man.
Is that in the glass bottle with the big, thick filter that you?
I just made it in a regular, like a French press, and just put the cold water, left it there for 12 or 14 hours.
I used my husband, and then you add just a little to the bottom of the cup, and you add cold water.
It's really good.
It's
cold water.
Oh, you drink it cold.
Well, you can make it hot,
Yeah.
but I didn't.
The one that we went to, sorry for the big diversions, was brew, and they take the cold brew and then they add nitrogen in it and put it in a keg, and it comes out of the spout, and it comes like a Guinness, but it's just nice coffee. It's
My daughter made me drink one and then talk to it.
Really, you had it?
Isn't it? It's like amazingly sweet.
It's great, but I don't drink a lot of coffee, so this is.
No,
I may be, if I'm speaking too quickly, just tell me to. If I'm speaking too quickly, tell me to slow down. So, the Brahma Viharas. Brahma Viharas are four sublime mind states. They're four sublime mind states that are. They're qualities of mind to be mindful of as aspects of awakening. The reason why I'm saying it that way is they're not concepts of love and compassion. They're used as to mask wrong or ignorant views, as opposed to developing the Eightfold Path and then becoming an expression of an awakened human being. So let me read the article. There are four sublime states of mind that are taught by the Buddha. These are perfected mind states that reflect an enlightened view of humanity. In Pali, these states are known as the Brahma Viharas, or perfected abodes, meaning that they're the mind that we actually reside in. They're ongoing. And again, they're an expression of an enlightened and awakened mind. These are mind states that one abides in. These states of mind animate conduct to all human beings. In other words, if we're living in these mind states, that will direct how we interact with the world around us. Consequently, if we're not, it will also direct that too. I got into an interesting discussion with someone, can't remember where it was, but how this underlying competitiveness for the need to continue to establish a self ultimately leads to all the aggression that we have in the world and all the problems that we have in the world. If we would simply recognize that, and it's not likely to occur anytime soon, but if we would all recognize that on a global scale, there'd be no more strife in the world, because there'd be no more competition within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And that's what I mean by that last line. These are also the wise and loving response to all social interaction and will diffuse tension and conflict. The four sublime as taught in the Dhamma are love or loving kindness, or metta, compassion, the Pali word for that is karuna, unselfish joy or mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. A teaching of the Buddha on these four sublime states is found throughout the Pali Canon. And here is a teaching on all four states from the Digha Nikaya, the Buddha's words. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with loving kindness, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, enmity and distress. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with compassion, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with unselfish joy, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with equanimity, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. My words, love is always selfless and imbued with dana, generosity. Love embraces all things in the phenomenal world while being mindful of impermanence. Love does not further clinging. Discriminate with no eye. With no eye, there is no mind of discrimination. Love is dispassionate, seeing all things with equanimity. Finally, love is the Dhamma and living in and expressing the Dhamma. I remember on I think it was our first, you might remember this too, because you were there. I think it was Saturday afternoon, and one of the attendees who engages in bhakti yoga, devotional yoga, was getting quite agitated. And her question finally was, where is the love? Where does the Buddha teach love? And he doesn't teach it in a direct way except as a quality of mind to develop through the Dhamma. In other words, the most loving thing we can do for all humanity is to take to the Dhamma and awaken. Developing the Dhamma is an act of love. It's an act of compassion for all human beings. And that's how the Buddha teaches it.
I still find the use of the word love confusing.
Because of all the different connotations that it has.
Because of, in general usage, there are so many connotations that anybody can make, with whatever they want. But then I see that towards the end of each paragraph, the Buddha himself uses the word.
Well, and it's a translation.
And of course, then I asked, well, okay, you speak of metta here?
Yes.
Okay, he uses the word metta at the end of, his where it says his love is measureless.
Yes, I could have used the word metta. I'm using love. And that's really the reason why I'm not, is to make that point, that the type of love that we're talking about in the Dhamma is an open heart that's full of goodwill for everyone. It has nothing to do with clinging. Obviously, it has nothing to do with romantic love, which really isn't love. I mean, except it's a common usage. It's an open and generous heart with no discrimination is really what metta is, isn't it? Goodwill towards all, beginning with ourselves. Again, there's that expression that I use. The most loving thing I can do for myself and for all sentient beings is to take to the Dhamma and awaken. It's that type of love. But again, the Buddha never taught anything that would relate to the common usage of love, meaning romantic love or that type of thing. It just doesn't relate in any way to the Buddhist teaching, because that's stuck in a clinging, self-referential view, isn't it? But it is. It's confusing. So when I'm using the word love, I'm really meaning metta. And I think I promised in a couple of weeks I'm going to give a talk on the Karaniya Metta Sutta and how that came about, because the backstory to that is really interesting. Yeah. Maybe next week, we'll see. Let me continue. Compassion arises from understanding our own suffering. Through Dhamma practice, an understanding of confusion and suffering occurs. Through personal understanding comes universal understanding. Compassion deepens for ourselves and others through right understanding or right view. This develops compassion informed by wisdom. It is also free of discrimination and passion. Compassion to all beings begins with remaining harmless. compassion to all beings is maintaining right intention. That line, compassion to all beings begins with remaining harmless, means that in order to practice true compassion, we have to marry it with wisdom. It has to be informed by wisdom. Often, well-intentioned compassion can be harmless to some people if it doesn't have wisdom behind it. I don't want to get into descriptions of that right now, but if that's a question, I'll get into it later. Unselfish joy is pure joy with others' success and happiness. It is joy that seeks to further others' happiness without passion or discrimination. The highest aspect of unselfish joy is the joy that comes from recognizing another's understanding of the Dhamma. And that's the most important aspect of Dana. It's the most important aspect of a lack of ignorance, is sharing the Dhamma with others in an unselfish way, and then taking joy. I'm lucky I have the seat in seeing other people developing the Dhamma. That's the highest type of joy, the highest type of compassion, the highest form of Dana is to express the true Dhamma. The Buddha lived his entire life in that mind state of great generosity.
Where does generosity fit in the Brahma Viharas? It's not one of the great perfections. It's
an ongoing expression of each and every one of them if you look at it closely. Especially this part of unselfish joy, and taking that. When I read about the life of the Buddha and how he interacted with people, what I see is the most meaningful life I've ever read about, because of how meaningful it was, because of what he was. Imagine how he must have felt, because he knew what he was teaching, and he saw the effect on people. And from his very first teaching, he saw people awakening. Kandana did it. Bonnie.
So that's what's referred to as the unselfish joy.
That's an aspect of it.
Give an
But
example. I know that seems rather.
It's important. In a general way, taking joy in seeing someone else's success, just in a general way. They might pick one. They get a raise at work or something like that, or they find that they're going to have a baby or anything like that. To have true joy about that and not in any way feel like, gee, I wish it was me. That I make that's underlying that. That's true of Pekka. But the highest expression of that is to take joy in other people and recognizing the understanding in other people that's developing. Because what's more valuable, what's more important?
Their freedom from suffering and its causes. That's the highest. So, like you said, mundane is success, like mundane success. But that we know is impermanent, it's fleeting, it has its own poisons. But to see somebody who's truly practicing from a place of equanimity and awareness and mindfulness, that we can take true joy in that.
Because we know it's the most
there.
And that again encompasses all four of these exalted mind states. Where was I? Equanimity. Equanimity is a mind that is free of reaction, stable in its understanding of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, the three marks of existence. A mind resting in equanimity is the mind deeply mindful of all that is occurring, and a mind that responds with wisdom, love, and compassion in all situations. A mind of equanimity is a mind free of an attachment to an ego personality and is free of defending or maintaining the ego self. Equanimity is a mind of lasting peace and happiness. These are mind states free of discrimination. In this manner, they are also referred to as boundless states, as they are not limited by any partiality. These qualities of mind are effortlessly maintained in all situations. They are the results of a wholehearted Dhamma practice that has a recognition of views arisen from a lack of understanding and has achieved a measure of non-reaction or equanimity. The framework for Dhamma practice is the Eightfold Path, and that provides the right view necessary to gain mindfulness of these perfected mind states, and recognition when one is not abiding in them. And that's one of the most important aspects of these teachings, to recognize when we're not abiding, when we're not expressing these mind states, and be judgmental of ourselves in any way, but simply recognize that we're outside of the framework of the Eightfold Path in that moment. Remember how the Buddha teaches and how I teach to be mindful of each factor of the Eightfold Path. So when we might be a little stingy and not taking great joy in other people's achievements and success, to recognize that that's an aspect of a self-centered view, that there's selfing involved in that, and to simply abandon it in that moment. When we're not acting with metta, with true love towards all beings, to simply recognize it. You know, these are taught as to provide direction to our Dhamma practice in the way to be mindful of them when we're not expressing it, but also, as importantly, when we are engaged in reflecting these exalted mind states, to be mindful of that also. Because it's important to recognize as we're developing the Dhamma, isn't it? Let me continue. In this way, mindfulness of the state or condition of one's mind as in the present moment provides a direction for ongoing Dhamma practice. This is another practical aspect of non-analytical insight. Simply recognize it when you're either in it or out of it. Shamatha-Vipassana meditation brings insight to all clinging and impermanent views arising from a lack of understanding. As meditation practice develops within the framework of the Eightfold Path, mind states that are less than loving or compassionate or lacking unselfish joy or equanimity become apparent. Putting aside the need to defend views of an ego self allows recognition of these sublime states and the right intention to renounce clinging to wrong views. The entire Dhamma develops these four sublime states of mind. The love that is developed is not a reaction to passion or possessive of an object. Compassion is also dispassionate and informed with wisdom. Being free of attachments allows for true joy in others' accomplishments. A mind of equanimity is always mindfully present and unwavering in love, compassion, and unselfish joy. In this way, the Dhamma is a Dhamma of developing perfect love, and perfect love has aspects of all four sublime states of mind. Getting back to Ram's confusion with the word love. Substitute metta. You know, the way that metta is goodwill. Metta is dana. It's ongoing expression of dana. The only way we can truly be generous is to truly be in that mind state of metta. They're all four sublime mind states. You know, and then there's no me in the generosity. You truly, the highest expression of an awakened human being is ongoing dana with the Dhamma, but that doesn't mean that an awakened human being is always on a street corner preaching the good news. An awakened human being is living their life as an expression of that awakened human being. There's no need to evangelize it. You're an expression of it. It's interesting when you read the Pali Canon. That's how the Buddha taught. His very first teaching was based on the attraction that his 5 buddies had towards him for the way he was holding himself. He didn't beat them over the head with the Dhamma. They saw it within him and they sought it out. In that way, these 4 sublime mind states encompass that of love, compassion, and generosity, a mind resting in equanimity, a calm mind. So that's today's talk. Thank you. Any questions before we go around the room? Ron.
Meditation's going good. Practice is going good. Working my way through the book.
Good.
Yeah, and I keep looking at it and actually in practice too, more and more people running into situations where it's getting to be appropriate to explain to them or see where part of it can fit and can be of help.
Yeah.
Can you say that again, Ron? I didn't hear. More and more you.
I'm more and more running into situations where it's appropriate to teach the Dhamma, or teach my understanding. And it's, you know, as I know from other studies, it's not until you start explaining it. First, you have to explain it to yourself. But when you start explaining it to somebody else, that's the true test of understanding.
It also shows the development of that quality of mind that's able to do that. You know? I mean, 4 years ago you couldn't do it simply because you hadn't developed an understanding of it.
Right. And I was also missing part of the compassion and love and kindness. That's also just necessary for it.
Yeah. True compassion.
Yeah, some of these people they require quite a bit of compassion to deal with. But as compassion develops, it actually becomes easier to deal with difficult people. Because you see how to create their own suffering.
Yeah.
And you look at God, all the misery.
Yep.
You get in a little bit of there. See if that can help. Just take the edge of their suffering. There's a lot of suffering.
Remember the Nagara Sutta, the Buddha looked around, he saw the flames of passion all around him in the world. And that's what he was describing, that suffering. But it takes, again, great understanding and great compassion to not judge the suffering and simply recognize it as the first noble truth. It's out there. What do we do with it? It also takes kshanti, it takes patient forbearance, and to stay with it, be present with it. It takes a developed Dhamma. Thanks for sharing that with us. Jen, good to see you tonight. How are you?
Practice is good. Meditation is good. Just concentration. That's been my reminder of where to place my mindfulness rather than chasing mind states or body states. Just concentrate.
Yeah, and you're seeing where concentration is the foundation of all of that. You have to have a well-concentrated.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
All the time. You have to, I've been trying to just always observe.
Thank you. Keith, good to see you tonight.
Good to see you.
John, could you put the air conditioning? See how it goes? Okay.
You're welcome.
I notice it doesn't take long. If I start not maintaining my practice before my concentration is noticeably different. And then it only takes a few days to get back on track before I notice that everything calms down and I, become a lot more focused.
Yeah.
So my practice is going well right now, and that's about all I have.
Thank you. Glad you're here. I got a great question from a student a couple months ago. And he said, why did the Buddha keep meditating after he awakened? Why wouldn't he? You know, it's an ongoing process. Everything is in a process. Even an awakened human being is in a process. Glad you're here. Maura, good to see you.
Good to be here. And I came in late as well. And I felt when I sat down that such a strong current in here that it feels like a stream, you know, you can come like in and whoop, in terms of, not to get all woo-woo, but it's very easy to sit down and here, the mind immediately kind of pulls into concentration, flow, whatever. So thank you everybody for holding it space. It's funny because when I was talking to you earlier and coming, said it was a noble and the ignoble search.
Oh, that's Thursday.
Yeah, and I had seen it flip by about the Brahma Viharas, but it just let it go instead of saying something. But so anyway, I was surprised that was the topic. And I have really been working with a strong, heartfelt, metta, tender, open, boundless heart state, just to kind of, you know, sometimes I'll do the first 10 minutes of my concentration practice, just working in that space. And then, but staying concentrated, you know, and noticing the same thing mindful when I'm out, you know, in thought. So it's a kind of a concentration practice, right? So I've really been the past maybe the past 2 weeks has been a real focus of mine is recognizing when those mind states are present, or abandoning when they're not. So not to get into a big question, because I think I'll save it for a different time, but you had said something, and this can go back to yours too, that those aspects of mind, metta, karuna, upekkha, and mudita are the expression of an enlightened mind, right? They're just there. And you said tonight that you don't practice them because there can be like a spiritual bypassing that can go on. Right?
Easy.
Yeah, right. So I was like, you know, because I will look when that mind state is the opposite is present. So somebody does something, and from a self-centered perspective, I don't like it. Like they didn't, they changed their plans or something. Anyway. But then, like right away, I'll switch it to I recognize disappointment or something, and then we'll say, well, they're doing what they think is like, just like the felt sense of wishing they're good about, like wanting them to be happy no matter what it is. And supporting that if it's not harmful. But anyway, and that just feels very energizing. And so then I started thinking, well, was that bypassing?
There's one way to know that you're not engaging in, to use that modern term, spiritual bypassing, or, you know, spiritual bypassing is just another term for continued ignorance, ignoring what's in front of you. The only way, maybe I shouldn't put that absolute on it. The only way that I know of to assure against continued ignorance is the Eightfold Path. That's why the Buddha taught it. So if our thoughts, words, and deeds are framed by the Eightfold Path, then we know that we're not engaged in spiritual bypassing or ignoring what's in front of us. Again, that's why the Buddha taught it. So we can easily get caught up in it's one of the problems, and this is not, I'm saying that you are we air conditioning back on? Okay. It's an important question because it happens all the time. And again, that's why the Buddha taught these not as something to use in a conceptual way, to use it as an expression, in fact, an acknowledgement of ongoing development of the Eightfold Path.
But I think the way that I use it is within the context of the Eightfold Path. So when I have an instance like that, I recognize I'm clinging to a self. So I'm abandoning craving. There's a sense of open-heartedness because I do really, I feel like the most important thing that I can do in my life is transform my mind, take to the Dhamma, and practice for my own well-being and the well-being of everybody else in my life. So there's an energizing, open-hearted, non-clingy, non-selfing felt sense about that. So I'm certainly not enlightened, but I kind of including, so tonight I was having a lot of pain initially in my neck, and just staying with the concentration of allowing and just noticing and bringing a softness of but not a conceptual, just including a sense of boundlessness and feeling joyful about it.
Well, yeah, you should.
You know, and at the end of the meditation, my body felt fine, and I was enlightened, and I stayed concentrated. So
sounds pretty good to me.
That I would say is I've been thinking a lot about the Buddha lately, in terms of the four immeasurables or whatever you call it, or compassion, right? So generosity, you brought up Donna. The Buddha left his palace, his home, his family, his kids, in order to pierce suffering for everyone. So that act in and of itself was a selfless act.
It was a selfless act, but it depends on how you're looking at it, because you bring up a point. The Buddha described his life in the palace as a confining place. So you could argue, well, wasn't it selfish for him to leave? Getting into an analytical way of looking at the Buddha's life in a way that we might reflect it on ourselves. So of course it was with great compassion that he left the confining place. It's the same thing that we do in Dhamma practice. We can't get too, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but you're bringing up an important point. If we're using the framework of the Eightfold Path, we don't have to get too deep into our motivations, because as the Buddha teaches, when you're engaged in wrong view, be mindful of that and to remain in right view. When you're engaged in wrong action, be mindful of that. Simply use the Eightfold Path as the framework for where you are. If there's an agitation at all in our minds in any way, it's not that we're doing something wrong. It's that if we're engaged in the Dhamma appropriately, that's something that we're saying, wait a minute, I need to look at my part in this. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not who I am. And just simply let it go. So you're bringing up a point that you notice selfishness in others momentarily, and you come back to compassion because you understand the suffering of others. I thought you brought that up, or you mentioned that. Okay. Well, the point is that we can avoid.
Oh no! I said if somebody makes a choice and it wasn't what I wanted them to, that's not. They're not being selfish. They're just being themselves. And I can take it personally because it's not what I wanted. So I'm attached to an outcome of a self.
Yep.
Right. So just saying, they're doing what they it's just occurring. It doesn't have to have a label, good or bad, or not good or bad. I can wish them happiness.
Yeah.
And in my clinging and continue to just keep to it's occurring.
And
but can we go back to the Buddha thing real quickly?
What about it? And
maybe we'll table the discussion, but I understand your point, but when the mythological story seeing old age, sickness, and death, and I mean, him, mythologically or metaphorically, maybe he did or didn't, want the marks of existence and wanting to, find a way to end that. There must be a way out of that process.
Yeah.
But the whole reason that he even made those first steps out of the palace, where he saw, the Sangha and the court of that, at that point, I don't think he was.
And he didn't go out.
That didn't happen out of compassion. That happened out of his own suffering.
Yeah, no, I don't think that happened out of compassion, but when he saw those things and he realized that was the end for all of us, he had a motivation to figure out what is the way of, this is ridiculous, this life.
Because you also
it's all going to end up like that. So we need to find some answer to this satisfying nature of life.
Yep.
So I don't know that he just didn't want it for himself. Like, to me, it seems like that's a grand question. It wasn't that he just wanted to find his own way out of suffering. I think he wanted, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so I'll just leave it.
Yeah.
It was like,
well, it's getting a little speculative what he thought. The only way we can know really what the Buddha thought, I mean, the best way to know is to read the Nagara Sutta and how he describes his own awakening and his own process of seeing the suffering in the world and being caught in the feedback loop of self-referential views.
right, well, that was after that was describing his awakening. That was
well, yes, but
that's brought him to seek awakening.
Well, so all that we know is that he encountered sickness, aging, and death. It motivated him to seek a solution, whether it was a completely altruistic view or motivation, or it was completely self-centered, which I'm not saying it was, is only speculation. But again, we go back to the Buddha's words. He mentioned that he talked of himself before he awakened, which means talking about himself at that point where he decided that he's going to seek awakening as an unawakened bodhisattva. So he's acknowledging that he was a human being with great compassion, but he was ignorant of the true nature of the world. And so you can say that it was his acknowledgement of ignorance initiated his search for knowledge. And that's exactly how he describes awakening. That's how he describes the common human problem as ignorance too. And so the solution is understanding.
Right, I understand that part. I get that.
Okay, so.
All right, that's good. We're good.
Great, thank you. Frank, good to see you tonight. How are you? Welcome back.
Good to be here. Thank you. Meditation's going great. In a 6 week of a 6 week vacation, and I'm looking forward to getting back to some normalcy. Spent some time away in faraway lands with strange people, and the world is aflame with people running and chasing after happiness and material possessions. It's a phenomenal world. I can talk. And, I like to keep things simple, and basically, I can see so much better when I take the intellect out of it, and I look with my heart, the eyes of the heart. And I think that the Buddha lays out a method of living life in a very simple, fashion, and practicing basic human spiritual principles like compassion. I like to put the word unconditional in front of all those principles, because then it takes the I out of it. Yeah. And, unconditional gratitude, humility, all that stuff breathes right into, acceptance and surrendering my own will into the Dhamma. Helps it helps me practice this method so much easier when I can be generous of my heart and not giving things, but giving of love and compassion and patience and tolerance and all those things that go with it. Has a completely different outcome when you're dealing with human beings.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Other human beings can appreciate your patience and tolerance and your genuine love, and not wanting anything in return, or just, other than just their happiness. So, yeah, just gonna keep it simple.
It's always appreciated, Frank. Thank you.
And that's what I'm trying to say, and I don't want to overanalyze it. Like, I know what works for me, and that creates a sense of well-being and other, like, not self-centeredness.
Liz, good to see you tonight. How are you?
Good to see you too. It's good to be here. Lately, I find myself still getting caught up in the activity of defending myself. So I think that's one of the hardest things that I have to keep bringing it back into the context of the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. It's such a conditioned reaction. So that's my struggle this week.
Thank you for sharing it with us. That the great freedom that comes from integrating the Eightfold Path overcomes that. Because when we know that we're acting in thought, word, and deed within that framework, we're remaining harmless to others and towards ourselves, and there's no I-making in there. But recognizing it as part of the whole process, we have to do that first.
I think the place where I make progress is that in the moment of a situation where I had a discussion with people Friday night, and the conversation got a little ratcheted up, and I did not. And so I was asked, sort of, come on, like, aren't you in this? Aren't you in the pool with me here? And I said, I can understand what you're saying. I said, I don't have to inflate my blood pressure. I don't have to do anything. Just, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going there. And, it was interesting. Bonnie and I had this conversation where had a part of your behavior where in the past you would have gone there, and then you stop going there, and people get there, and then they're looking for you. You're not there. You're not there, and I'm just like, I can tell you in a reasonable fashion how I feel about the situation or whatever. And at one point in the conversation, I said, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So I'm able to do that, but then it's the second arrow as I sort of regroup and think through thoughts. And, I've discovered that by not going there, there's no alternative world of judgment that, people really do accept the fact that you're not going to get that ratcheted up about something. But I do it kind of to myself, well, I should have defended myself here, I should have not stopped talking there, or whatever. I'll get through it, but it's been one of those weeks when I've had to put the elephant skin on.
It's hard not to get caught up in those kind of things, especially on those subtle levels.
Yeah.
And all we can do is to continue to deepen our concentration and mindfulness of, another way of saying the Eightfold Path is not right and wrong, but appropriate, and to always understand what is appropriate in this moment. We're not here to be targets for the world. Buddha was attacked; he defended himself. Sometimes it was in a physical way. When I can't think of his name, was throwing boulders at him. The Buddha didn't stand there and try to catch the boulders. Took 2 steps to the right. It's okay to defend ourselves in that way. Thank you. Bonnie, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, it's like knowing to stand out of the way is a way to defend yourself. But something you said earlier, I know when I get to the truth, but then I go, wait, that's really important because I can't keep it in my mind for a second. But so when the situation like Liz is talking about, when people are trying to pull you back in and trying to defend yourself, trying to be dispassionate, they want you to be passionate, and if you're not, then some way you don't feel what they feel. I'm trying to be able to acknowledge what I'm feeling, be skillful about it and not give up myself because I'm trying to please others or take care of others. But something you said about recognizing at that point too, which is something that I think I have to walk away from, is about that they need to do that because they have whatever power they if I cry, then they know, okay, maybe I'm there. But if I'm to not have to allow myself to become so passionate and emotional, but for me to remember that that's about their suffering.
Yeah.
And it's not about me. Always. In that moment.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to be skillful in the Eightfold Path and to not do what I conditionally would have done in the past, right?
Yeah.
Sort of, but that idea that to remember it's not just my suffering that I'm trying to get through, but it's their suffering. So which will give me, I'm just thinking out loud, give me more compassion to stand back. And then even though, keeping this all in mind is like, this is a loop that I want to replace with, we talk about metaphors, and one of the metaphors I've been engaged in is unknotting these eating things that I've been working on. And, the harder I pull, the tighter the knot gets.
Yeah.
But if I take my time and I'm not this huge thing, and I realize that just even in my livelihood, and we all have these knots, and I would like to be able to see the knot, not get not have to get caught up. I want to stand back from not making the knot bigger or creating, so that I be present, but I don't have to
Make it worse.
Yeah, or to fabricate these ideas about like why people are doing the other things that they're doing. So but that idea of the remembering their suffering.
And what you're describing is it's at that point of recognizing eye-making that you practice restraint, and it's right there. And just in time. We'll just start over again. So we'll start with a 20-minute meditation. My talk tonight is on the Brahma Viharas. I'm glad you're here. Jen, you have...
Just wanted to, Bonnie was kind of, and what Liz said also kind of made me sort of resonated. And when I was trying to think of as few words as possible, the aftermath of moving, sometimes when I move through a situation mindfully and then find myself analyzing the situation after the fact, at the aftermath of coming down, maybe I feel guilty, maybe I feel shameful, maybe I'm whatever. Man, that's just more eye-making. That's just the ego trying to reestablish.
And look at the feedback. What you're caught up in is, how am I appearing to the outside world, but also how am I appearing to myself? And
it's really-
there it is.
Yeah,
How do you get out of it? The only way to get out of it is to frame it with the Eightfold Path.
Yep.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's
Not
important.
easy, yeah.
Frank.
I can relate to what they're saying, and you know, when I'm dealing with employees or a customer or anyone really in the family, I have to remember that they're not practicing meditation, they're not practicing mindfulness, they don't have precepts, and they don't understand hindrances to being a good human being, and that they're getting caught up in this riptide currents of their own human emotions. And if I remain with that worldview and understand my own involvement in things, it's so much easier for me to take myself out of it.
Yeah.
And then I can just see and hear and experience what it is and not really have myself involved in the experience. Or like kind of seeing it happen, but I'm not really experiencing it. I'm just watching it.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for saying that. And then we realize how fortunate we are to have what we have, to have the ability to develop the Dhamma and to have it here for us, because not everybody's going to get it. You know, we have a way of taking refuge in the world, in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and this wonderful Sangha. More.
So I know this might not be exactly right, but when Buddha talks about being mindful of what's occurring inside, being mindful of what's occurring outside, so often in situations when my concentration is good or whatever, I'm trying to recognize what's arising in me and get that, like let go of that, see it, let go of it, so that I can, like we could just to pick up on what's arising in the other person, not from my perspective, and then I might be able to respond, and not even with words, but in a way that diffuses whatever it is. Not like I used to say, oh, it looks like you're upset. Like that's not always helpful. So, and I realized, say for a very small example with my mother, I was just thinking about this, we're going to be traveling, and often she gets anxious about something.
About you.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. But lately when we've been together, I try to recognize her anxiety and do something to that will like just create a little bit, like she'll say, oh, we're gonna miss the flight or something, and instead of saying, well, Mom, don't worry, we'll be fine, I'll be like, okay, we'll make a big effort to be there on time. And don't laugh at that, that's not funny. But it's truthfully, like just hearing what they're saying, and I do this like at work, a lot of the families, it's hearing what they're saying and trying to take an appropriate, skillful action and get me out of the way and not tell them they're silly for that way or they're stupid for that, but recognizing they're afraid. And what can I do to alleviate their fear right now? Without work, without saying, oh, you're afraid, don't be afraid. Because that's often what we do to manage our own anxiety. Right?
It's about being on time.
And I know, but to manage our own anxiety, we want somebody to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing instead of kind of recognizing, oh, they're anxious. And I'll say, like, oh, can I go get you a chair or something like this?
So what you're describing is an awakened human being, as described by the Buddha, is free of craving and clinging, meaning craving for the continuing establishment of an ego personality and clinging to those views that establish it. And the end result is that we're simply mindfully present with life as life occurs, including other people. The response is always appropriate, and it comes without thinking about what the appropriate response would be. It's just a natural expression of a mind resting in equanimity. You brought up something.
We're not really all awakened, so we have to kind of just catch it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's where we practice restraint. So you brought up something else. The Buddha's talking about the mindset of the Buddha at that point when he first encountered the world and decided he's got to figure it out. He wasn't concerned about answering the great metaphysical questions of who he was, where he came from, where we're going, where we made the universe, all that, where we go after death. He was concerned about one thing. Why is life so disappointing? He set out on a search for understanding dukkha. And he figured it out. He awakened to the understanding that craving originates and clinging perpetuates dukkha.
Outside the room
Oh, you got cold?
dissipates the cold air.
And that was really his entire motivation. It was very, very practical. And so his teachings upon his awakening were entirely practical. How do we end the constant preoccupation with getting what I want and avoiding what I don't want? Let go of self-referential views.
Move to the other side of the room.
And what's an expression of that? What's an expression of an awakened human being? These 4 sublime mind states. That's how we know. You know, it's a good when we're in it, and it's also good to know, like more like we've all talked about, when we're not in it, when we're a little bit concerned with the world, when we're reacting to the world, when we're wanting the world to be different or the people in the world to be different. We know that we're stuck in I-making at that moment. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not bad, it's not good, it just is. What do? We continue to develop the Eightfold Path so we can continue to recognize this on more and more subtle levels. And what happens when we're awakened? We don't get disappointed anymore. Life is just what it is. Frank?
I was just going to say something about the experience of that stress and anxiety when you catch yourself. When I catch myself being caught up in that self-preferential, egotistical mind frame, and now I feel the emotion is acting with a spiritual principle. And that kind of like releases me immediately from the anger I'm feeling or whatever it is that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
What do you say? Do you have some sort of?
No, when I acknowledge it, because usually I'm suffering. The anger at something, the frustration with somebody, like, you know, being on vacation with my family and being very extremely frustrated, sitting in a restaurant waiting for my daughter who's only 1 block around the corner and she's 20 minutes late and we want to order our food. The tolerance and then that unconditional love when I want to reach out and choke her. And it just releases me from it right away.
Yeah.
And then I can breathe.
She doesn't know how lucky she is that you're doing this practice.
Well, but you're describing, you're recognizing that the reaction in your body and in your mind is telling you that I'm making it. I want something to be different than it is.
But recognizing that sometimes isn't enough for me when I'm really caught up in it. I have to practice something that's an action that releases me from that feeling. You know.
Right.
And then I could feel the lift. I could feel the energy return. I could feel the calmness return, and tranquility or whatever you want to call it. Where normally I would have taken a drink, an extra couple shots or something. I'll go waiter. I'll take a couple more Manhattans or whatever. No, I don't drink anymore, so I don't have that instant gratification or release from that human emotion. Now I practice the principle, and it's like.
Yeah, and you're describing a well-concentrated mind that knows what to be mindful of in that particular situation. That's the Dhamma.
Whatever I'm feeling, I practice the complete opposite. And I take myself out of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments tonight? Great class. All right. I don't think I have any announcements tonight. Diane, you have?
Where are we? I mean, is this the crossroad?
Yes. Yes. How's your meditation practice?
Life saving, sanity saving, health saving. I can't begin to describe how and how it goes into every part of my life. I think for a long time I struggled with the distracting thoughts and bringing my mind back to my breath. And I have learned a couple of, not tricks or anything. I count when I'm off the cushion. When I'm on the cushion, this is, you're gonna think I'm stupid, but I just say, you're sitting, just sit, this is it. And that brings me back immediately. And some of these things on the cushion I'm just now beginning to appreciate what concentration means. I don't think I ever really was able to concentrate before this practice, but when I'm off the cushion, a situation arises that, is disappointing, uncomfortable, or I feel like I want to control it. I remind myself to just sit here, just stand here. And when I'm driving and somebody comes up and, is attached to my bumper, that is one of my, has been or was a pet peeve. I just start counting. 1, 2, I count up to 110, and then I start all over.
That makes them really happy.
Well, it makes me feel, yeah, I know, but I mean, that was something, and it's a story about that. I'm thinking, in my whole life, I've never felt more present. I have a big event coming up for myself, and I notice fear arising, and I say, hello, you're afraid of the unknown. There's absolutely nothing I know about what I'm going into, and the little girl in me wants to say, well, just cancel it and don't do it. Be safe. And I think using that kind of metaphor, the little girl in me that was afraid, what I feel like finally is I'm adult enough, mature enough, or something enough, or loving enough that I can say, we'll get through this. And I think that's probably the most precious thing that meditation gives me. I don't abandon, and it's not an I-making thing, but I just don't, I don't abandon myself anymore. And it's a kind of a way to embrace and truly love who I am. And that, I had so much self-loathing for most of my life because I just wasn't making it. And that's why I'm not doing this meditation or this whole practice perfectly, and that's okay. I'm finally given myself permission to do it as best I can. And that is, I'm probably using words of I-making and stuff like that, but it's a peace, it's a confidence, it's a self-esteem thing that is humbling, that I don't need to brag about or anything like that. It's just healthy.
Thank you. I'm glad you came tonight, and thank you for bringing the book. Let's finish with Metta, as we always do. Find your
You mentioned announcements.
I can't
Have you
think.
given any thought to our discussion? Or are you
I haven't.
on that?
I'll talk about that
Okay.
in the appropriate time. Find your relaxed meditative posture. Gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. And let that mindfulness of your breath cease any distracting thoughts to the past or to the future or that may have arisen from our talk tonight. And these are the words of the Buddha from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing with a wise way to reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class. Peace.